Is OpenAI gonna kill your startup? Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. One of the more persistent memes throughout the recent history of Gen AI, basically the post-ChatGPT period, has been this idea of OpenAI killing all startups. This was even the subject of a Y Combinator podcast episode back in 2023 called Will OpenAI Kill All Startups? Now, initially, the context was that in the wake of ChatGPT being released, there were a ton of companies that were either A, very, very thin wrappers on top of ChatGPT, or B, trying to fill in very specific gaps in the ChatGPT product. One really notable example of this was the Talk with Your Docs type apps, of which there were a bajillion before ChatGPT could interact with PDFs. Now, obviously, that was going to be a feature that was somewhere on the roadmap, and that even ultimately led to these statements from Sam Altman.
Fundamentally, there are two strategies to build on AI right now. There's one strategy, which is assume the model is not going to get better. And then you kind of like build all these little things on top of it. There's another strategy, which is build assuming that OpenAI is going to stay on its same rate of trajectory. And the models are going to keep getting better at the same pace. It would seem to me that 95% of the world should be betting on the latter category. But a lot of the startups have been built in the former category. And then when we just do our fundamental job, which is make the model and its tooling better with every crank, then you get the OpenAI killed my startup meme.
Now, this meme came up big time again in the context of yesterday's product announcements. This is what I had featured in the headline section of the show, but the announcement had only just happened, so I hadn't had much of a chance to digest. And as people did dig a little bit deeper into this meme of OpenAI killing startups came back. Sudhi Chilapagari from Battery Ventures writes, "Great set of product announcements from OpenAI today. Enterprise Search, Glean, Meeting Note Taker, Granola, IDE, Windsurf. What's next? Calendar, spreadsheet, email? This validates that LLM is a commodity and the real money in moat lies in the application layer." So let's talk briefly about a couple of the features that were announced yesterday and the startups that people pointed to as potentially threatened because of this. The new connectors feature allows ChatGPT to interact with other data sources. This is only available inside business accounts first, and this basically gives that sort of chat with your docs experience that people have been interested going all the way back to those wrapper companies. More recently, though, the idea of enterprise search as a use case for AI has been a huge priority for a lot of enterprise AI-focused companies, notably Glean, who was mentioned in that tweet. ChatGPT building that sort of functionality natively into their core enterprise experience does bring up the question of whether you're going to want or need an additional search experience outside that. Professor Ethan Malik wrote, "So OpenAI deep research can connect directly to Dropbox, SharePoint, etc. In my experiments, it feels like what every Talk to Our Documents RAG system have been aiming for, but with O3 smarts and easy use. I haven't done robust testing yet, but impressive so far. When it quotes a document, that link actually takes me to the document. I think it's going to be a shock to the market, since Talk to Our Documents is one of the most popular implementations of AI in large organizations, and this version seems to work quite well and costs very little." Now, of course, Glean is not just a Talk to Your Documents company. It is an all-in-one work AI platform that ranges from an assistant to agents and more. But it is certainly the case that the more the core products like ChatGPT start to nibble at the edges of these offerings, the more confusing it's going to be for some percentage of enterprise buyers who think to themselves, well, let's just stick with the company that's offering it alongside the core models. If anything, the note taker announcement seemed to get a lot more chatter. This is, I think, because people absolutely love Granola. Granola advertises itself as the AI notepad for teams in back-to-back meetings. And even in a world of a million native meeting recorders with things like Otter and Fireflies and Fathom, Granola has started to carve itself out a nice little niche. If you go search around Twitter/X, you can find lots of people talking about what they love about Granola. One of the benefits is that it doesn't place a bot inside your calls, it just captures audio directly. And so yesterday, people definitely took note when OpenAI announced ChatGPT Record Mode. Remember the tweet was, "We're rolling out ChatGPT Record Mode to team users on macOS. Capture any meeting, brainstorm, or voice note. ChatGPT will transcribe it, pull out the key points, and turn it into follow-ups, plans, or even code." Roblo writes, "In other news, OpenAI is trying to kill Granola and every other AI meeting notes app." Zach Kukoff writes, "Granola getting Sherlocked by OpenAI. At some point, model providers are going to need to decide if they want to be stable platforms or compete for every vertical. Platform risk has never been higher." Now, Zach also mentioned another thing in this same domain which has been going on lately. He says, on the heels of Anthropic throttling Windsurf's access to Claude 4. A couple of days ago, Varun Mohan, the CEO of Windsurf, tweeted, with less than 5 days of notice, Anthropic decided to cut off nearly all of our first-party capacity to all Claude 3.x models. Given the short notice, we may see some short-term Claude 3.x model availability issues, as we have very quickly ramped up capacity on other inference providers, but we believe we have now secured sufficient near-term capacity. We've been very clear to Anthropic that this is not our desire. We wanted to pay them for the full capacity. We are disappointed by this decision in short notice. A day later, Windsurf's head of product engineering, Kevin Howe, writes, yes, Anthropic completely cut our Claude 3.x and Claude 4 capacity. By way of backstory, he writes, we had less than 5 days' notice and no choice in the matter. We strongly expressed our disappointment and our desire to continue supporting and promoting Claude 3.x and 4 via their first-party API. Our goal has and always will be to provide the best product, period. As part of that, we've always prided ourselves on providing access to all models. Kevin goes on to say that they're working with other third-party providers to try to bring the Claude models to their paying users. Kevin also writes, quote, we have significantly improved our agentic harness around Gemini 2.5 Pro and GPT 4.1. By the way, Google AI Studio lead Logan Kilpatrick had responded to the CEO's post with a Gemini handshake emoji Windsurf response. Kevin concludes, ultimately, as any user can attest, the magic of Windsurf has always been in the product. It's important to power our product with great models, but the real magic is in the deep contextual understanding of existing knowledge, thoughtful UX, tool integrations like previews and deploys, customizations like workflows and memories, enterprise readiness, JetBrains, and the list goes on. And this is exactly the question. In the new world that we operate in, what are the moats? Going back to Zach Kukov's tweet again, remember he wrote, at some point model providers are going to need to decide if they want to be stable platforms or compete for every vertical. Battery Ventures Sudhi writes, this validates that LLM is a commodity and the real money and moat lies in the application layer. This certainly seems to be the pattern that the frontier labs, at least the startup versions, Anthropic and OpenAI, are embracing. Yes, obviously they continue to compete for model dominance. Anthropic, for example, has really leaned into the fact that it has the preferred coding model. But these companies are also releasing actual applications. They are not just playing the role of platforms. OpenAI has slowly but surely been releasing a set of what are effectively consumer applications that live inside ChatGPT. One might consider image generation a version of this, but certainly deep research, operator, now Codex. These are OpenAI's first forays into owning the application layer, not just the model layer. Similarly, Anthropic is not just interested in being the model provider. With Claude Code, they are directly competing with some combination of the latter-day IDEs and the vibe coding platforms. Again, it's pretty clear that they value owning some part of the application layer and the relationship with customers. There are really big implications for what the frontier labs decide to do vis-a-vis agents. The single most dominant theme in venture investing right now is vertical AI agents, verticalized based on specific sector or specific function. The question is, how many of those are the frontier labs and hyperscalers going to go after? And what, if anything, can actually differentiate and allow those companies to become integrated in a way that they're not just eventually punched out by those bigger players? There was an interesting discussion from about a year and a half ago on Hacker News around what is a 2024 to 2030 moat for AI. One of the most popular answers said the moats are network effects, switching costs, economies of scale, low-cost producer, and brand. And what you'll notice is not here, and this has become kind of conventional wisdom at this point, is unique or differentiated technology. Basically, there is a sense that technology itself is getting commoditized. And so it will be other things that allow companies to compete. I also saw this post from enterprise VC Ashu Garg, who writes, I had lunch with a founder last week who pitched me on their AI for operations platform. I stopped them 3 slides in. General purpose AI isn't cutting it anymore. DeepSeek's January breakthrough told us something important. Efficiency and performance can coexist a lot earlier than most people thought. Startups are now excelling not by scale, but by focus. They're building vertical AI that deeply understands the messy, high-stakes workflows in sectors like healthcare, finance, and defense. Specialization is the new competitive advantage. 3 patterns I'm tracking across successful vertical AI startups. First, they pick massive but high-friction and high-value workflows. AI for sales or AI for operations is too broad. What's effective is focusing on urgent, complex processes. Second, they build more than model wrappers. They create proprietary feedback loops and data assets that compound over time. This instrumentation is what turns a one-off tool into a durable, defensible product. Third, they expand from beachheads of earned trust. They wedge into multi-billion-dollar industries by solving problems in the hardest, least glamorous corners. From there, they earn the right to expand and unlock bigger TAM over time. I don't know if that's the exact answer or the only answer, but I do know that whatever the answer is to this, it's going to shape how the industry evolves over the next several years. Browser company CEO Josh Miller writes, "Weird convergence in tech. Notion adds AI research, meeting notes, enterprise search. So do Atlassian, Grammarly, Coda, Glean, and Granola. OpenAI buys Windsurf and Codex, GitHub and Google follow. Browsers are next. Is the future this obvious? Everyone's converging." He continued in another tweet, "It feels like everyone is bundling into a handful of AI super apps of sorts. Coding, IDE, agent, etc. Work, docs, enterprise search, meeting notes. Assistant, AI chat, search browser, etc." The point is, things are going to get more, not less messy. Companies are going to find themselves in competition in ways that they didn't anticipate. And we are just now figuring out what the post-technology moat world looks like. If there is any good news for startups, it's that these moments of chaos and transition tend to benefit the nimble more than the big and lumbering. And so who knows? The changes in moats may be exactly to some of these new startups' tastes, if they can just figure out what the new moats are going to be. I think it's too early to say that OpenAI is going to kill all the startups, even that they are now competing with by virtue of the announcements yesterday, but things certainly just got even more interesting. For now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Thanks for listening or watching, as always, and until next time, peace